What are we doing here? Is this frequent traveler or what is this?
Yep.
Yep, what?
We're live. Hi, Rudy.
Well, hello, Tommy. Hi, I'm Rudy Maxa, and you are tuning into one of our irregular broadcasts that are necessitated by the fast-moving news in the travel world. I'm a travel writer and broadcaster. Tommy Danielson is in the travel business in a number of ways, websites. Tommy, by the way, is in the light blue shirt. If you don't have names on your screen, I do not. He also is very involved in the frequent flyer and industry or incentive industry for airlines and other companies. And there are the names. Flemming Poulsen is coming to us from Scandinavia. He is editor-in-chief and founder of Final Call, a blog in Denmark and Sweden.
Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, yeah.
Okay, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. What happened to Finland? You didn't throw Finland in there.
Scandinavia is only Norway, Sweden, and
I know
Denmark.
it's not. I know Finland is in Scandinavia. But I thought, they're all sort of contiguous. So I thought Flemming
Well, the difference is that the Finns have a language that's kind of interesting compared to the Scandinavians. The Scandinavians, we all kind of understand each other.
Language, yes. I know. It sounds alike. Well, anyways, delighted to have you here. Tommy, I know that you spoke yesterday. I couldn't join you yesterday, but you spoke about the move by SAS and to change everything.
Yeah, I think we had a conversation yesterday with Erling, who is the editor for the Norway side for Final Call, and also Christian Kamhaug, who is a PR guru in Scandinavia. And also, I think Christian was known for a lot of things with SAS and Scandinavian Airlines. Among one thing is that he, how many followers did they need for him to tattoo his leg?
It was 1 million followers on Facebook or something, yeah.
Right, and then he would tattoo the SAS logo on his leg, and he actually did it.
All right, what is it for folks who might not have been keeping up in the news the last several days? What's happening to SAS?
So SAS has been in Chapter 11 since last year, and with a new CEO who has a history of cleaning up notoriously unprofitable airlines. A guy named Anko came to Stockholm to clean up SAS, and what happened yesterday is that they had a bidding process who would take over the airline. What would the future look like? And yesterday it was announced that the shares of the company would be set to zero. So meaning that all of the previous investors, including the Danish government, who was a major owner of Scandinavian Airlines, lost 100% of their investment. And now Castlelake, which is, it's a U.S. based Minneapolis, New York investment company, will take 32%. The money that's being put in is just north of 1.1 billion US dollars is the new working capital that their investors are bringing in with them. 32% is Castlelake, and then the most interesting piece is obviously that Air France-KLM, which is a French-dominated company owned mostly by the French government and the Dutch government. Typically with the Europeans with their owners of governments. But anyways, that's just beside the point. And then Lind Invest, who is a Danish company, will also take a substantial 8.6%.
Big news for consumers is that Air France and KLM are basically taking over SAS, which means one big thing.
Well, they're not taking over, but we have only an ownership of 20%. But I think, Flemming, should we say that the probability that Air France-KLM will take a larger ownership is pretty high?
What most of the media actually didn't figure out yesterday was that if you look at the press release from Air France-KLM, it is actually mentioned that they already now have an option of acquiring a majority of the shares after a minimum of 2 years of ownership. Yeah. Of course, it depends on a lot of stuff, but they've actually been really public about it. That's their goal.
But Flemming, isn't the big news for consumers, for average flyers, the switch in alliances on the part of SAS?
Definitely. And there's been a lot of loss on social media.
Folks who might not know about it?
Yeah, I mean, the SAS came public yesterday saying that they want to join SkyTeam instead of Star Alliance. And of course, that's for frequent travelers in Scandinavia. When you hear that the first time, that's a big thing because everybody's grown up with Star Alliance, and most people don't even think about other alliances in Scandinavia.
The big thing in the U.S. too.
Yeah.
Not as big of a thing as I think that it's more important for Scandinavians, but also SAS was a founding member. Jan de Carlson, who is the customer service guru, and also the guy who ran SAS through their glory days of SAS. He retired just as SAS announced that they would be joining Star Alliance and found Star Alliance. So it's a big deal because they were one of the 5 founding airlines.
So it's going.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Fleming. I just noticed also, if you're wondering what that FTU stands for above my head, it's not my initials. It stands for Frequent Traveler University. So Fleming, from the American perspective, which is probably our larger audience here, or from the North American perspective, leaving the Star Alliance and coming into an alliance dominated by Delta and Air France and KLM and Virgin Atlantic, that's a big deal it's an added benefit for those of us. I live in a fortress hub in Minneapolis, St. Paul of Delta. That's a very big deal because I don't fly United anywhere near as much as I fly Delta, say.
I would say that the big difference we're going to see is that if you look at Star Alliance, and especially the cooperation between United and SAS right now, that's not really tight. They haven't been really good friends for years. So if you look at if you fly over the Atlantic on an SAS flight and want a connection in the US, very often you'll end up on Alaska. You've been ending up on American. You've been ending up on JetBlue. Not that often on United, actually. So I think actually for the passengers, this can end up being a good thing. SAS will end up having a really, really great network in America. But of course, it will take some adjustments because SAS flies into Newark and Delta is big on JFK. But also SAS has started flying one daily flight into JFK, and we might see them change the rest of the flights over time to JFK to get into that network from Delta.
But from a American perspective, I saw that you about that yesterday, Fleming. So I went in to check, and I've also kind of had the same experience myself for the other side of the pond. If you are going to Scandinavia, it is 100%. The United sells SAS like nobody's business. They sell it, in conjunction with Lufthansa itineraries. Not just also, you can also find flights, codeshare flights, going through Copenhagen to go to Germany or Poland and things like that. So while SAS might have found other partners, it's quite common for Americans that you will never end up on British Airways. You will never end up on Finnair. You will always end up on SAS if you're going to the Nordics. So I think that the other way, I know what you're talking about. I don't know. Do we know why that is? Why have SAS straight? Has it to do with the various hubs that SAS flies into where there's no?
I don't know. I mean, they're big in Chicago.
That was news to me. I did not know that. I didn't know SAS and United weren't, joined at the hip.
No, and I mean, SAS is not part of the transatlantic joint venture either. That was Lufthansa that didn't want them to be part of that, and it might have something to do with that as well. I don't know, to be honest. I've just seen whenever I've tried to book an SAS flight to America, I was presented with a connection on Alaska or JetBlue or something like that, which actually means that when I have 3 hours in LAX, I don't have access to a lounge because I'm flying on Alaska.
Right.
So from that perspective, I think as a passenger, I'm actually pretty positive about the changes that will come.
Right. Well, it all depends if SAS is going. Well, of course, if Flying Blue or if Air France-KLM, acquires, and I think that the chances they will take control of the company is pretty high. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Definitely.
And with that in mind,
especially because they're so public about it already now, so that's definitely their goal.
Yeah, and also then I'm quite sure that the American Airlines Alaska connections will definitely disappear, and Delta will be the dominant carrier that will be connected to same way as they're probably the probability is probably high that the transatlantic JV between Air France-KLM and Delta, and also now Virgin Atlantic, that SAS will be a part of that, right?
Yeah, that's definitely been on the table, and that's I think Anko actually mentioned it on the press meeting yesterday. That was their aim, to be part of that joint venture.
Tommy, what did you mean about American and Alaska sort of fading away?
Well, there's some sort of an agreement with them where SAS passengers get transferred to Alaska or American. That definitely will disappear, I'm quite sure.
Oh, I see. Okay, from SAS perspective, I thought, okay.
No, it has nothing to do. From our side of the perspective, let's look at the Scandinavian side of this perspective. And I would say that what was not talked about yesterday, everybody was talking about Air France and KLM. For Scandinavians, what we need to look at is Virgin Atlantic and their network. And, SAS has a strong presence at London Heathrow. And I think that it's quite possible that SAS will move over to Terminal 3. Don't you think, Fleming?
I think it should be possible. I mean, especially after moving to SkyTeam, that would make good sense. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but I think it'll happen.
Terminal 3 at Heathrow now houses Virgin and Delta, which is why Tommy suggested that SAS might move over there now that they're all in the same alliance.
Yeah, so Star Alliance is Terminal 2. That's the Star Alliance, the Queen's Terminal that was opened in 2013. When actually Fleming and I were there for the Megadu. We were there for doing a tour right after they opened. So it was a pretty cool gig. But it's what we're seeing for terminal. SAS doesn't have a lounge presence in Terminal 2 anyways. They used to have where the Qantas lounge now is. In Terminal 3 is where the SAS lounge used to be. The SAS lounge with a really nice area. They have showers there, and it was one of my favorite lounges in the SAS system. And SAS has been cutting to the bone for many years already. But that's obviously right now from a lounge perspective. You have the Virgin Clubhouse, which is in Terminal 3. And that's obviously which will be the new home. Right now, Star Alliance has 4 lounges. They have the United Lounge, they have the Air Canada Lounge, and they have the Singapore Airlines Lounge and 2 Lufthansa lounges which is available in Terminal 2. So the Terminal 3, and how many flights do SAS have to London Heathrow? It must be like 15 a day from various destinations, right?
Yeah, something like that. I don't have the numbers top of mind, but
and I think it'll be beefed up a little bit. I think that right now it's all of a sudden it's an important hub for SkyTeam.
I will tell you, the Virgin Atlantic Lounge in Terminal 3 is fairly legendary for their incredible breakfasts that you order a la carte, and massages and haircuts and manicures, etc. But I learned on Sunday, Fleming and Tommy, that even as a Delta Diamond member, million miler, carry the credit card, nice guy, I was flying coach on Delta nonstop from Heathrow, Terminal 3 on Delta to Minneapolis. And I went up to the Virgin Atlantic Lounge, where I've been many times, and I said, hi. They said, oh, you're flying coach on Delta. No. You have to go down to the Aspire Lounge, which is a lounge that should aspire to be greater. But that was news to me. I was not allowed in. In fact, I was upgraded by the time I got the Aspire Lounge. I was in premium economy, which would have let me in the Virgin Atlantic Lounge, but I wasn't about to walk all the way back there. But that was news to me. I was not happy with that. So.
Really?
Yes, really. Really, he was about to let me in, and then he said, wait a minute, you're just in regular coach. I said, yeah, I mean, the flight's full because yesterday's flight didn't fly. So the flight was totally full. So here I am.
That means that SkyTeam doesn't give lounge access to, they have a lounge. They are providing you with a lounge, but,
Well, you can't get in the Virgin Atlantic Lounge there. I have always used the Virgin Atlantic Lounge when I'm flying Delta out of there.
So what, you have to be in premium or?
I have to be in something other than regular coach. I have to be in, comfort class or business class. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I didn't find it interesting.
Did you know about this, Fleming? Is that
No, I've never heard about that, to be honest.
Yeah, but I think that it's probably something that might be so. You were flying Delta, right?
I was flying
Delta. Delta is known for having, Delta is they haven't really won any popularity contests the last week and a half.
Well, let me ask you that then. I've been sort of out of it for 2 days 3 days now. I guess since I got back, has the CEO of Delta come out with the new better deal. Oh my God. I'm
the
sorry.
US is doing the national alert on your phone, so
Yeah,
you're
this-
watching. The whole house is ringing on all Apple devices right now.
Every American cell phone is ringing right now, Fleming. It's some kind of emergency.
I
Yeah,
thought
just
that was
read about
supposed to be
that,
18
actually.
minutes ago. I guess the emergency is delayed. So if it was a nuke coming, we would
Well, it's
be
1
dead
to
already.
145 Central. It's now 118 Central.
You know,
So
if a nuke truly is coming, we know we're not going to make it anyway. So
No, right.
I'd prefer to be unprepared when it happens.
has Ed Bastian said anything about the new? Oh, we're so
They haven't walked it back yet. I know that they're working on it, but I think that at the end of the day, we're not going to cover that on this call. But I think that they will walk back. I think it'll be an adjustment with the number, but it's like a temporary thing. They will eventually move back, but I do think that American Airlines had a much better idea with their new non-flying based system. If we were to look at the various, I think that Virgin Atlantic out of London, right? They fly to Vancouver, they fly to Seattle, they fly to San Francisco, they fly to Los Angeles, they fly to Las Vegas, which is a big one. I mean, that's a destination that I think Condor flies there for Lufthansa. I think they do. But you have Chicago, you have Austin, you have DC, you got New York, both JFK and Newark, you've got Boston, you've got Orlando, you've got Miami, you've got Cancun, you've got so there's a ton of destinations in North America. And in addition to that, you obviously have the beach market in the Caribbean, like Barbados and Antigua and all sorts of places. And I think that they have some of those flights, I think, are from Gatwick, aren't they?
No.
Yeah, they have some flights from Gatwick. I'm pretty sure.
I think they do have some flights from Gatwick. They used to have that in pre-pandemic for sure. And then also, if you look at other areas of the world, an area where which is kind of exotic, they've got Nairobi, they've got Joburg, Cape Town, they got Lagos, and Nigeria, and they got Accra in Ghana. So they've got some interesting stuff there. They've got Dubai, they've got Mumbai, they've got Delhi, Sydney, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Tokyo, and Osaka. So I think that this might be an outdated map. Don't take my word for it right now, but it looks like you're getting a much better reach through them on a long haul network, which is definitely shouldn't be ignored from an hour and 40-minute flight from Copenhagen.
No, and I mean, I think, a lot of people yesterday were complaining about SkyTeam being a smaller alliance than Star Alliance and flying to less destinations in the world. But I mean, honestly, I think if we look at Virgin, KLM, and Air France and Delta, you have a pretty good coverage, actually, and you have some new and interesting destinations.
Right.
You can actually book both award and revenue.
So let's look a little bit at that. So we know that Delta flies to Copenhagen, and also to Stockholm, but it's seasonal, right?
That's seasonal. That's seasonal in the summer, yeah.
And I think that, is it safe to say that we will see maybe some more Delta flights going out of Scandinavia?
I think that is definitely an option. That might change to year-round route.
So before the pandemic, United was flying year-round. They flew with 757s mostly to Scandinavia, right? So it was the thinner routes. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's the difference in seats. It's just probably less premium seats in that. It's probably what we're talking about. But United was, before the pandemic, they flew to Oslo, they flew to Stockholm, and they flew to parallel with, and that's happened for a long time. What do we feel like Delta is going to beef it up, and where do you think they'll fly from? Do you think that they'll continue to just do JFK, or will they add some of the other hubs?
I think it will make good sense. Not necessarily Delta. It might be SAS starting a route also, but connecting Copenhagen with Atlanta. It makes good sense. You'll have access to all of North America. Yeah.
Correction. Virgin Atlantic does not fly out of Gatwick. As a guy whose daughter lives in Gatwick, I follow that closely. I just checked it online. I want to make sure. So no Virgin.
I've flown Virgin.
They used to do.
They used to, but they don't anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so that's after a pandemic thing. Thanks for checking.
And the CEO says he has no plans for Virgin Atlantic to serve Gatwick as of now. So.
Yeah, but up until the pandemic, they definitely did. All the beach market, it now goes from Heathrow. Good to know. So according to this map from back in the day, I see Gatwick on here. So this is obviously an older map, but they did fly to the Caribbean. But take that with a grain of salt. You got to obviously look it up. We have to look it up and to make sure that where they fly from Heathrow now to the beach market. But they looks like they are all over the Caribbean. So that's obviously something that Lufthansa did not do. They don't fly to Barbados. They don't fly to Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua, or any of those places, right? So
no, Germany has such nice beaches. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they focus. I mean, they fly to Cancun, which I don't think that Lufthansa flies to Cancun, but I think Condor does.
I think no, not Condor. I think it's their low-cost Discover that flies Cancun.
Got it. So, Lufthansa is doing themselves a huge favor by introducing all of these crazy, stupid brands that they have for 2 years, and then they decide to drop it after all. But anyway, so let's...
Our guests, can I introduce her for an old radio guy? Reintroduce the guests if somebody just tuned in. Tommy Danielson is an expert on frequent flyer programs and incentive programs for airlines and other industries. He is one of the founders of Frequent Traveler University. That's the FTU you see over my head. My name is Rudy Max. I'm a journalist, travel writer, and a travel broadcaster, radio and TV. And in the center position, coming from Sweden, is Flemming Paulsen. He is the founder of Final Call, a very, very popular travel website and blog. I suppose I could call it a blog as well. Flemming in Denmark, Scandinavia, Denmark. The other two, Norway
and Sweden.
Right. Sorry.
I think it's time for Rudy's nap now.
Well, I'm still a little, I've been sleeping well lately. Sorry.
There you go. So who
are you people anyway, and why are you on my computer?
So let us take a look a little bit about so if we were to see for Scandinavians what Delta kind of has to offer, we know that you kind of there are restrictions for American SkyTeam members when it comes to lounge access and things like that. But for the European ones, what is does anybody know? I see we have quite a few people on here. Anybody know what the access for the various lounges are?
In the U.S.?
In the U.S., yeah, for European members of SkyTeam.
I should know that. I don't know that. I mean, it seems to me they're usually a lot of signs giving a lot of other logo, because maybe I just used to seeing those in Europe. I don't know. That's a very good question.
So if we were to look out up the lounges situation, it says that if you have Elite Plus, we strive to always offer lounge access to our Elite Plus first and business class customers, and reservations are not required. So the SkyTeam has their own lounges at quite a few places now, or not quite a few places, but they've kind of done a sort of a rollout. I went to visit the one in Vancouver, which was kind of a nice place. Nothing to do cartwheels over, but definitely a better gig than whatever. So if I go into their website, it doesn't really tell me very much, but SkyTeam Elite's getting access to the Sky Club in the US. I'm quite sure that that's going to happen. So Elite Plus will probably be Eurobonus Gold today, which is a Star Alliance Gold, and also the Diamond level, which is a higher up tier for Eurobonus, meaning that they will get access to that. I don't know how, we know that SAS is probably not the most generous airline when it comes to lounge access these days, and also other things. The good thing is, though, as SAS is starting restricting their other Star Alliance carriers to use their fast tracks. In Stockholm, I was flying. I have Lifetime Star Alliance Gold, multiple Lifetime Star Alliance Gold, and I was there. There was a rumor last year going around about that, but I had a United Star Gold on my boarding pass, and I had an economy ticket flying for 50 minutes to Oslo. Went over and to priority or to the fast track, and I put my boarding pass, and I was told, "Oh, your airline has not paid for access," is what they said, which is, of course, a bunch of BS. But with the Sky Priority thing, it's now going to be set in stone. both all the SkyTeam carriers have already, and that's a Michael Schutzbahn thing, a friend of ours that used to be responsible for this at SkyTeam, and also Mauro Oretti, and also a great friend of ours who's one of the bosses at SkyTeam. They had Sky Priority is kind of like that's set in stone. That's all carriers, and it doesn't. That's anywhere in the world, right, Rudy?
As far as I know, yeah. Yeah.
So Sky Priority means that if you have Elite or Elite Plus, you get access to their priority lanes, meaning that the fast track in Stockholm and everywhere SAS flies today. So that's an improvement for other flyers, but for Eurobonus members. So what do we feel like it's going to? So obviously Copenhagen and Oslo, they assign gates as we go, right? So there's no SAS terminal or Norwegian terminal in either one of those. In Stockholm, it's a little bit different because they have they're spread out. But it's Swedavia is kind of the company that runs the airports for the government. They kind of have a different structure. How do you think that Stockholm? Do you think Lufthansa Group is going to get kicked out of Terminal 5?
I mean, it will make sense to swap terminal, to be honest.
For connections
with Stockholm, you don't really know, because I think there's a lot of things there that doesn't always make sense.
Well, what are all your Fleming? What are all your countrymen and adjacent countrymen going to do with all these miles? They're good on SAS now for United and so on. What are they going to do with all their points?
No, let's not. We covered a lot of that yesterday. We're talking about the network.
Well, just give me an easy answer. Will they use their points when they're in SkyTeam?
Let's cover that a little bit later.
I don't think that will be a problem.
In the conversation.
Yeah.
Let's cover that a little bit later. Let's talk a little bit about. We're talking about routes and what it will mean for people flying as of right now. We'll get to that towards the end of the call. But I was so the way that Stockholm is structured, for those who don't know. Stockholm has 5 terminals, or actually they have 4 terminals because there's no Terminal 1, but which must be a Swedish thing. But Terminal 5 has all the long haul flights goes from Terminal 5, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's why Finnair is primarily with the One World carriers in Terminal 2. But since they had long haul, do they still have long haul flights in Stockholm? I thought they discontinued that.
No, they discontinued that.
Right, because I looked at the Stockholm airport yesterday, their website, and they said Finnair was Terminal 2 and 5. So that means that all of the Emirates and Qatar and Iceland Air and SAS and Delta and United and everybody flies out of Terminal 5, and that's the furthest terminal. And then you have Norwegian is in one wing at Terminal 5 and SAS is in the other, because Norwegian is the second largest carrier at Stockholm, right? And then you have Terminal 4, and they've just opened up a walkway between Terminal 4 and 5, so you don't have to go outside of security anymore, which is obviously a big deal. I actually walked that when I flew into Stockholm here a couple of weeks.
They used to have an airside bus between those terminals, but I mean,
but now you can walk.
It was kind of a nightmare to take it because you didn't really know if it came and. Yeah.
But Terminal 4 used to be the domestic terminal, and it's not anymore.
Domestic, right? Yeah. Because when I've traveled through Stockholm, I've started in Malmo, and that you actually have to change terminal to get to the long haul flights when you arrive on a domestic flight. But I think during the pandemic, they kind of put all the SAS flight in the same terminal. I think they closed down the Terminal 4 during the pandemic, actually.
Yeah, and now Ryanair is in Terminal 4, and there's some other airlines there as well. So I think that also you'll see Norwegian probably over there, and also I saw an Airbus from SAS over there as well when I was there just a month ago. I flew in from Riga and came into Terminal 4 on Norwegian, and walked the whole way down. It's not really that far. So yeah, I saw a comment coming up here. I can't see who actually is making the comment. This must be something wrong with the portal. But let's talk a little bit about long haul routes. Is it safe to say that now the new owners, and on the long term, we know that Amsterdam cannot grow, right? Amsterdam will have to reduce the number of flights because of environmental things, which since there's no restrictions anywhere else, that's kind of idiotic.
Yeah,
but it is
both
what
the
it is.
reduction, but also higher taxes on connections. What
Right.
we're talking about.
So
That'll put KLM under a big pressure here.
Right. So that means that one of this investment is just probably also made because of that. Because Copenhagen is a really good location in Europe to do flights out of, just because of the caption area, which includes Malmö and southern Sweden, because of the bridge and the train, a fast train that goes across the bridge, and conveniently located on the biggest island in Denmark, or the most populated island in Denmark. So I feel like that Copenhagen will be kind of like do you think that that SAS will continue to have long haul flights out of the other places, or will they have Delta fly those instead?
I think they're holding back on actually telling us the whole story right now. I mean, to be honest, it would make most sense if they actually just have one long haul hub. I mean, we all know it costs a lot of money if they just have one flight from Oslo and 1.5 flight from Stockholm. And the Swedish market is expensive. They have high taxes on flights compared to Denmark. And they've tried. I mean, they started the LAX flight from Stockholm. They moved it to Copenhagen because it was better business. They started the Hong Kong flight from Stockholm, moved it to Copenhagen. It has a bigger caption area, Copenhagen. That's just,
right.
Even though the Swedes won't admit it, but it has.
No, and also we see the traffic for Stockholm is kind of dropping. And, it doesn't have the same growth as Oslo and Copenhagen for normal reasons. And I'm Norwegian. I grew up in Norway. I love, 907, the flight to New York was great. I love flying out of that. And I would love to see nonstop flights more than anything else. But I think that at the end of the day, like whoever posted the comment, I think that, the focus now should be making business, not doing business and making money, not making people happy. So
no, and actually, let's be honest here. I mean, if one thing KLM is good at, then it's actually running one big hub with connection flights and a lot of
and that's the thing.
routes.
So I think that you're going to have Virgin Atlantic with their big hub in London Heathrow. You're going to have Air France-KLM, Air France in Paris, which obviously can be a little challenging, but at least the champagne is good and good quality. And I don't think that whoever posted that right now, yes, Air France-KLM is very focused on a one hub operation, and I think that even as a Norwegian, I live in Sacramento. We have a caption area that's half of the population of Norway. We don't have a single long-haul flight from here. No. I have to fly to LA, or I have to drive to San Francisco, or I have to fly to Seattle. Those are the breaks. That's how that goes. SAS needs to make money, not please Scandinavians. It's not their jobs to do so. So right now, Denmark owns a big piece, and a Danish investment company. Copenhagen Airport, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the biggest employers in Denmark.
It is,
which means that it makes a lot of sense to put that there. And also geographically, to fly from Central Europe, it really is a great place to connect. Some good lounges, some good shopping, and good options, and all staying inside of security. Somebody said that another option is SAS will be cut all long haul and feed to KLM, Air France, Delta. No, I don't think so. I think that one of the main reasons why Air France-KLM bid more than the others on this deal is because of their restrictions that they will have flying out of Amsterdam. So they need a place to fly from, and Copenhagen could be that place.
Definitely. And remember, KLM is really, really good at the secondary Scandinavian market. I mean, they have a lot of flights from secondary airports in Denmark, in Norway, in Sweden, and they're really good at it. They're really popular. People like them. So they know what they're doing here, and they already have their foot in the door in this market, and this will just make it even better when they combine it with the network from SAS.
Where are you located?
I'm located in Malmö in southern Sweden.
Okay, I thought I introduced you as being in Sweden. I wanted to correct if I was wrong. Sorry.
Well, Fleming is not Swedish. He's actually Danish, but I
am Danish, but I've been living here for many years.
Yeah, so let's look at the Delta piece of this thing, or the other way around. I think that Atlanta is definitely going to pop up for sure. I think that that's going to be a critical thing to the domestic network. But geographically, though, to get access to the rest of the U.S., that's like connecting in Miami, right? So geographically,
Minnesota.
It's a tough one. JFK is
nuts. Minnesota.
Yeah, I think Minneapolis is a good hub, but also we got to look at Seattle. Seattle is a big focus area for Delta. They
Yeah.
are
Salt Lake City.
they've got a great new
And
club.
I think
with
it's
a lot of-
interesting to see what happens with Chicago as well. I mean, SAS has at least in the summer 2 flights a day from Scandinavia to Chicago, where they connect on United.
They're going to have.
And what's going to happen there?
They're going to have.
Delta does not have a big presence in Chicago for sure. They are tiny. It's an American.
And I mean, it's an important route for SAS when it comes to cargo.
Mhm.
It was actually one of the only routes that continued flying without passengers during the pandemic.
Right.
Now they paused the Stockholm route during this winter, but it's still going strong from Copenhagen with daily flights. And so I'm a little interested in seeing what's going on there. I have a suspicion that they might discontinue the Stockholm flight.
Right.
And utilize that aircraft on, it could be Copenhagen, Atlanta, or something like that.
Yeah, I honestly, I think that they're going to serve Delta, but Delta is probably going to fly Atlanta and JFK to Stockholm, and maybe seasonally. I don't think there shouldn't be an expectation that they will be an outpost type of airport like they are right now. Emirates will fly in, you can fly on them, Qatar will fly in, and then of course you'll have feeder routes, tons of British Airways or SAS flights to London. Lufthansa will probably keep going. So Lufthansa is more than Lufthansa though. We have talked a lot about what this means for SAS flyers and for SkyTeam. Let's look at what this means for Star Alliance. We're 39 minutes in. We are supposed to be going for 45, so we only have 6 minutes left. But we'll do a little bit 10, 15 minutes. So Star Alliance is obviously the dominant alliance on this planet with the members that they have. And if we were to look at Lufthansa, Lufthansa is more than Lufthansa. Lufthansa is Austrian. It is Brussels Airlines. It is Swiss. It is LOT, the Polish airlines. They have also used Miles and More and is in the Lufthansa group. And you also have all of these interesting, smaller, non-members of Star Alliance that Lufthansa owns. And it looks like also ITA Airways or Alitalia. I'm still seeing Alitalia branded cups showing up every time I'm on that airline. So it hasn't really changed very much. You have the same hospitality by somebody doing their nails when you walk on the plane instead of saying hello to you. But that will be probably a part of Lufthansa's group soon. It's a deal they've been working on for a long time. I mean, is it a good idea to mess with Italian stuff? Probably not. But they've had some pretty decent success with Air Dolomiti. Being a Northern European Milan-based carrier that's been in the group for a while. But, I don't think that there's room in Terminal 2 for all of those airlines in the future. So I think that probably you're going to see them in probably Terminal 4 or a combination of something else. We'll have to wait and see. But for a network, for a United flyer now going to Scandinavia, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do in Scandinavia right now with connection. So I don't think we'll see much long-haul flights. I'm interested to see what happens to the United flights to Stockholm when they don't have a network here. Is it really enough just to fly to Stockholm, or
right?
What are they going to do?
So when you look at the network you have in the Star Alliance network, you have the options. You have Aegean out of Greece, who many people have been saying is ripe for a takeover. You have, of course, all the Asian carriers have stuff, but you have Croatia Airlines, which is a great carrier, but a very tiny carrier that doesn't have a lot of, they're a small, very, very small carrier that doesn't have long haul or anything like that. You have LOT, who does have some long haul, big deal to Chicago. So if you're going to Chicago now, you probably might see that as being an option out of Scandinavia. It shows up many times when I buy tickets from there. And you have Tapper Portugal as the last carrier in Europe. Oh, I guess technically Turkish Airlines is also, but connecting through Istanbul to go to North America might not be a good idea. But there are other areas. But Tapper Portugal has done a play on long haul. They don't have Dave Neeleman's investments anymore, and they're kind of a little bit up in the air what happens next there. And then you have Turkish, which is I don't fly Turkish because of they're literally Aeroflot right now. They are the biggest carrier in Russia, and nobody pays attention to that. It just swept under the rug, but it's still a player in Star Alliance, a big member of Star Alliance. And but the European network it's pretty much Lufthansa, right? Or
Definitely.
Lufthansa Group right now.
And of course, Lufthansa is going to do something in Scandinavia, but I mean, we saw it after the pandemic. They started in Stockholm with Eurowings. It wasn't really a success, to be honest.
Yeah,
had
they
a
were
lot of
pretty early,
cancellations.
It's very early that they did the move, so it's very hard to say.
But still, if they enter the market with Eurowings, which is not an alliance member, then you won't have the same footprint as if you do it on Lufthansa metal.
Right. Yeah.
So if you want to win this market with loyal Star Alliance members, then you shouldn't enter the market with Eurowings.
Right. Yeah. So if we look here, you have United and Air Canada. Those are the two carriers that are, and Air Canada has 2 flights to Copenhagen. They have both Montreal and Toronto.
Toronto, yeah.
So they have a kind of a dominance there to get to the US for sure. But now it means, how the hell are people even going to get to Heathrow to get to United and all the United flights that are there, and also other Star Alliance flights. If you don't want to fly Lufthansa, or it doesn't work out the schedule wise, how people are going to get to Heathrow?
I don't know, because I find it hard to believe that people are going to take a connection somewhere in Europe or in Germany to get to Heathrow and connect to those flights. It's going to be a massive problem for them.
Yeah, and Star Alliance is definitely for United flyers and everybody else it's definitely we're seeing issues. So I think that Star Alliance Gold as a status is much more valuable for Scandinavians or for anybody because of the lounges and for the service that you get. It is by far the best status to have. But I think that at the end of the day, though, the network is taking a huge hit with SAS, meaning that you had Finnair as One World, and it's now closer with One World because they're integrating their loyalty currency into being Avios, and for them to be a part of that. And now SAS is moving out. The network has gotten crippled for the most exciting areas of Europe. And to say that Lufthansa will come in and take the volume, I mean, think about it. How many Scandinavians are flying Lufthansa just because they have a partnership with Star Alliance? And those guys the SAS flyers are going to be flying to Amsterdam, Paris instead. So,
yeah, and I really don't see who should pick up the ball after SAS in Star Alliance when they leave.
No,
in Scandinavia,
there's not really the ball will be moved. The ball will be moved to Amsterdam instead of Frankfurt and Munich. It's going to be moved, and London. London is like it's a dead end. You can't, that. First of all, Norwegian doesn't fly to Heathrow; they fly to Gatwick. So there's no partnership happening right there. And also, it wouldn't happen anyways because it's a low-cost carrier. They do cooperate with other airlines, but it's not like this. So,
but they will never interline with anybody. I mean, it's
exactly.
a
What
self-service connect.
What is it called? This thing that they do with EasyJet or whatever. But
self-connect or something like that.
Exactly.
You basically buy 2 tickets and an insurance.
Exactly. So which is useless. It's a recipe for a lot of paperwork. But which means that between the Scandinavian cities and the main airport, you have British Airways, which they're definitely not going to partner with them, and SAS, which is not going to be. Well, it's going to have more flights to London, I think, because of Virgin Atlantic. And I don't see. I think that Lufthansa is going to reduce Scandinavia. They're not going to beef it up because at the end of the day, the Scandinavian the people who are loyal to SAS They're going to continue flying SAS, and SAS is, they're going to beef up more flights to Amsterdam. And, SAS, I checked it. SAS has 3 daily to Amsterdam and from Stockholm, and KLM is 8. That's a big number, meaning that that's a hell of a lot more
plus
flights.
all the secondary airports in Scandinavia.
Exactly. You have Billund, you have Bergen, you have Trondheim, you have Torp even. Twerp. Chris, I think Kristiansand also has an area. You have Stavanger. You have, what do they have? They have Gothenburg. They have Malmö. Do they have Malmö?
No, not Malmö. No, it's too close.
Because it's too close to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
But so the secondary markets have been big for KLM Air France. So I think that's I think that Star it's going to be tough.
How long is it take for all this to be merged? A year?
Somebody posted. Ålesund and Linköping are also KLM flights.
Yeah. I would say
that's small towns.
About a year? You even think longer than a year, Fleming?
This transition will take. I think it will take longer than a year. They won't exit Star Alliance and enter SkyTeam until at least next summer, and then it will take time. It'll be in steps when we see it. Of course, the membership of SkyTeam will be on a certain day or something, but before we see it all integrated, before we see the adaptation of the network, that will take time. So I would say 1 to 2 years before it's fully integrated, which goes pretty well hand in hand with KLM's plans of acquiring a bigger position after 2 years. So it'll make sense.
Right.
Okay.
So I think the conclusion is SkyTeam has a big win, which has been a long time since they have, and they've always been the outlier in the alliance world. And now all of a sudden they are covering areas where they had absolutely very little coverage before. Of course, we talked about the KLM market for sure coming into Scandinavia, but all of a sudden now you have a much more robust network, and also a very modern and nice intercontinental product with SAS and their long haul flights. I mean, their Airbus 350s, taken it a few times now in business class, and it's a brilliant product. And the last flight, they even took out the cover of my dinner instead of just leaving it on top of it. So that was pretty good.
Wow, you got special treatment there.
I did get special treatment. They knew who I was.
No, and let me add to that also. I mean, as we talked about before, with the restrictions coming up in Amsterdam, the higher taxes on connections and stuff like that, I think SAS will come out of this as a bigger airline. I wouldn't be surprised if we see even more long haul routes out of Copenhagen, if they expand their long haul fleet. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Maybe they'll get 10 of the 50 Airbus 350s that Air France-KLM.
Yeah, and that's a different story. I actually think long term they'll get rid of them and get the 330neo instead. It's a much better aircraft for SAS, but it wasn't on the market when they ordered those 350s.
Or maybe 787. KLM has a ton of 787s on the line. That's on the way to KLM.
But they also have 350s. So I mean, SAS is full in on Airbus.
But there's no similarity between the short and long haul fleets.
No, you can mix those.
So you can't mix them the way that you could back in the days, but you can between the 330s and the short haul planes. But at the end of the day, though, also SAS has done a really good job lowering the cost when it comes to their staff. Pilots make a lot less money than KLM Air France, and also the cabin flight attendants.
And let's not forget, when we look at the numbers we've seen during the summer, and I mean last month was not too good for SAS, but a lot of these savings we won't see them until they exit Chapter 11.
Right. Yeah.
So we don't really know how well SAS is positioned for the future until they exit Chapter 11. And I think they're in a good place, because otherwise there wouldn't have been a bidding war in them.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that, by the way, I wouldn't read anything into the August numbers. Because of Chapter 11, they have to report monthly. And they don't report monthly in the sense that they are giving you the full accounting every month. They give you highlights. So it could have been a big write-off.
And those numbers are not adjusted at all. I mean,
exactly.
They could have had a big leasing payment or something in August, and which ruins everything. So it doesn't say anything, to be honest.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, so I also see Everton as a friend of ours coming out of DC, who's talking about the 321 LRs. How many does SAS have ordered of those? Do you know?
I think it's 4.
So not that many. And they fly those to DC, they fly it to Dulles, and they fly them to Boston.
Yeah,
right?
they fly year-round to Boston. They use it on Toronto. Once in a while to DC. I think it's in the winter season. And then they
Do they
have
fly it also
the
to Newark, maybe
Aalborg,
a little
and
bit?
they do it from Aalborg and Gothenburg.
Right.
Which I don't really know how well they're going. I've heard some rumors that especially the Aalborg route is not too solid, but we'll see. It works pretty well to Boston. I mean, they have full flights. The fares are extremely high, so I'm pretty sure. I mean, they should do a really good job if they didn't earn money on that.
So, Rudy, you've been quiet for a while. Let's talk a little bit about what's for you being one of the most frequent Delta flyers up until the recent changes.
Right.
What are your general impression and expectations as a U.S. based flyer for what this means to you?
Well, I'm delighted. Although, as you know, my family lives in France and England, so I don't go to Scandinavia as often as we do with our tours sometimes. But I'm thrilled by it because, as you say, nothing's grown in the the Delta Alliance in a long time. Nothing's improved. Nothing's been added, and it's a great deal for those of us who live in a Delta hub, as I do in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Right.
I mean, that's all you can say. And I sure love Scandinavia, so I'm going to come visit Fleming and see why I moved country to country, but. I know I want to see your mother, so Tommy. So
she actually died a couple of years ago, but that's okay.
Well, you know what I mean.
My grandma.
Your grandma, yeah, right, exactly. That's unbelievable. Yes.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's and for those who didn't, we talked. We had Christian Kamhø and Erling Stensland, who is also a colleague of Fleming, who's his editor for the Norwegian part of it, and it is.
What did he say? Is he excited?
I think Erling is probably wasn't as excited as it has to ferment a little bit. Right. I think the last thing I want to cover before we call it a day, lifetime statuses with SAS is Star Alliance Gold when you get lifetime Euro bonus gold. So SAS has three published tiers, which is silver, gold, and diamond, and then they have the invitation only level, which is called Pandion, which is for you, Pandion is a eagle that rarely lands, so that's what it's named after, and that's what that status is. So I've actually had it ferment a little bit overnight, and I think I stand by my what do you think, Fleming, though? I made a statement yesterday about what I think is going to happen to the SAS Eurobonus Gold members. What do you think is going to happen?
It's nothing I really lose sleep over right now. I mean, it's far down the road. I mean, it will still be Eurobonus for at least the next 2 years. It's not that it's going to be integrated in Flying Blue overnight. There's a lot of standalone bonus loyalty programs in SkyTeam. So, I mean, it won't be integrated into Flying Blue until at least Air France-KLM buys a majority of SAS. I don't think that. It's a well-known brand. It's a really, really strong brand in Scandinavia. And as long as it's Eurobonus, you will still have your lifetime gold. How it's going to be. I mean, so I don't really worry about it short and medium term. Long term, I don't really worry either. It's they'll take good care of.
But should members worry? Should members worry about that? Are they going to lose their hard-earned benefits?
I don't think so. They will be crazy and stupid if they did. And to be honest, yeah, they might do some crazy stuff once in a while, but they're not that stupid.
Right, and we have a comment here. Maybe travel sites in Norway now advises Eurobonus members to spend their points as soon as possible, which is just. That's just don't do it.
Yeah. Then they it might be a good idea
That
to
is such a
write
bad- I
about
think
something
that-
else than travel. If that's your advice, I wouldn't panic about it. I don't use.
No, I
Uber.
think that I would continue to earn my miles or your bonus points with your credit cards. I would not change your habits at all, because at the end of the day, any merger that has happened with frequent flyer programs has always worked out well. I have no examples where it hasn't ended up better for the flights. When Northwest went with Delta, when for me personally, when Continental, I made out like a bandit when Continental and United merged. And for me, it ended up being a good chunk on my way to 2 million miles and Star Alliance Gold status right off the bat for the rest of my life. And I think what's going to happen is that SkyTeam or Air France-KLM and Flying Blue, they don't have lifetime gold status. They only have lifetime platinum status. I think, prediction, and we can bet a good bottle of scotch on that Fleming. I know that Rudy here, he only drinks apple juice or prune juice. I mean, so
that would be wine, Fleming, is what he means.
Yeah.
No, that's grape juice. So I will bet you that the SAS Starlines, this lifetime gold members will be lifetime platinum members, because the earning.
Yeah, either that or they will come up with a lifetime gold membership. I mean, it's 7.5 million members in a strong market. It's but I mean, it doesn't really matter because there's not a big difference between gold and platinum.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. So I think that it's more probable that it is. I think it's more probable that they will give SAS members lifetime platinum. They made a conscious decision to only have that tier, and I think they will make an exception. And also, it is really not that easy to get Star Alliance Gold or SAS Eurobonus Gold for life. You have to be gold 10 years in a row. So if you miss
consecutive years.
What?
Consecutive years.
Consecutive, yes. So if you miss a year, you change jobs or whatever.
Start all over again.
Start over.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy gig. I don't have it. I mean, I've been Star Alliance Gold, SAS Gold since the beginning of the program until I moved, and I've also been gold 4 or 5 years after I left to random. When I had some big when I put miles, I used to put miles to Eurobonus a lot because they earned a lot more when I'm flying expensive fares than United does. So I had it for many years. I've had more than probably 16, 17 years I've been Eurobonus Gold, but I don't have it. I don't have lifetime status with them. So that's kind of an interesting gig for sure. So I do think that they're going to do that. That KLM or Flying Blue is going to change how the lifetime membership, will be because of that. I highly doubt it. I think it's better that.
But anyway, it will be a bit down the line because I mean,
Absolutely.
I don't think Eurobonus will be Flying Blue anyway. And just around the corner here, it'll be several years from now if it happens.
Yes.
So, and as long as it's Eurobonus, they can keep their lifetime gold and just match it to SkyTeam.
Yeah. So that's but like you said, the Flying Blue gold level, all right, is there really isn't a lot of difference between the gold and the platinum, anyways. But so I think that the only thing that they're losing, the Scandinavians are losing, is aspirational rewards, like no more Singapore Airlines, no more first class, no more Lufthansa first class, and all of the other things that might be that is off the table. And even if they become a part of Flying Blue, if you are in a Taram Flying Blue or if you're in Kenya Airways Flying Blue, you don't get access to La Premiere, which is the only first class product that is available for some select members of Flying Blue. And also, we also know that they have 4 seats now on the new 350s. It'll be 4 seats, and on the 777s that Air France has, it's also just 4 seats in first. So it is
but I mean, let's be honest. It's not that many first class seats in Star Alliance anyway. I mean, if you're a Eurobonus member, Lufthansa releases.
I guess there are some restrictions on how you do Singapore for sure.
But 7 days before, you can't fly Singapore Airlines. It's not that easy to get. So I mean,
right, but you have ANA. You have
ANA
as an opportunity with a great product, and also they've just announced an even improvement of that.
But it's a few people making a lot of noise on the internet that are booking those flights. The regular customer doesn't care because he wants to go on vacation with his family when they're off.
Right. Yeah. Oh no, I don't think in general, but I think for our viewers, I think that the aspirational piece is definitely, and it also, I see the eight seats on Air France Airbus 380. I think the Airbus 380 is on its way out, right? I thought they already parked it, and I haven't seen it show up on. It used to be daily to San Francisco and LA. It's only triples. I haven't looked in a while, but usually maybe they're bringing those back. I see Lufthansa and British Airways are now starting to pump those out more, but still. All right.
One of our viewers here says there are 8 first class on Airbus A380s. I don't know what airline that's on, but
that's Air France. That's what we just said. So I do think that at the end of the day, it's the losses. There's something to be said for bringing your wife in Lufthansa first and that kind of stuff, and losing that will be but that's something you get over. I mean, Air France business class is a brilliant product. I've had a lot of good flights. Of course, you have Charles de Gaulle you have to deal with, and they might open up for platinum members the opportunity to redeem La Premiere, and you also get a different they are. So Everton just posted that the 380s are gone for good. I don't know if they're back. I haven't seen any yet, but people can just Google it. I'm not sure if they're back after the pandemic. But the first class product on the 380 was junk anyways. I've flown it once, and it was not really. It's really not a good product either. You kind of sit out in the open. So, but conclusion. Let's do a round around the table. What Rudy? What do you want to start off? Or actually, Fleming first. Rudy, you can round it out. Okay. Fleming, what do you think? What should we conclude? And what's the conclusion of the conversation we've had today?
I mean, personally, I'm really positive. I think it could be a really, really good thing. It's there's a lot of habit involved here. I mean, people have grown up with Star Alliance in Scandinavia. It's gonna take some time for people to absorb that. But I think when we come out on the other side, it'll be a really, really good thing. We'll end up with a bigger SAS in Copenhagen. We'll probably end up with more both long and short haul routes. A more solid network in the US when they adapt their route network to connect to Delta. I think it'll be really good. I don't lose any sleep over this. There'll be a lot of bumps on the road when they merge into SkyTeam, but it'll come out being really, really good.
Rudy.
I'm positive as well. Now, it's only 2 days old, so I really haven't heard any of my friends who are big United and SAS users. The fact that the switching alliances is major for many of us who fly Delta. Obviously, I can't fly nonstop to Scandinavia from Minneapolis-St. Paul. I have a feeling we might be able to down the road in a couple of years. So it's all positive for me. But again, I don't know how United and flyers are feeling about it at all. I've not heard anything from my friends yet. I can imagine they won't be quite as happy as I am.
Great. And for me personally, if I were to say what would this mean for me? I mean, at the end of the day, I think that how my habits would be if the route network looks the way that it looks today. I have no status with SkyTeam, but I do fly them every once in a while in paid. If it's a good business class fare, I will fly them for sure. But will I will book away and not book SAS as much as I used to. when it comes to, I think I fly Norwegian just as much as I fly SAS on short haul anyways. I usually go after, and I think that with what we've seen, so, you know, the trend we're seeing in the frequent flyer space anyways, is that we see less benefits and more is required of you in order to get the status. I'm not seeing the European market is not as protected, and it has a lot more competition than the very protected and draconian subsidized market we have in North America, where the government wants big airlines and big conglomerates to run the show, versus in Europe, in the North America, in the US, we in reality have 8 airlines, right? In Europe, we have 30 plus. You know, you've got all these regional carriers and everybody's competing. And then you have a really strong, the biggest airline in Europe is Ryanair. So I think that at the end of the day, people shouldn't buy tickets based on loyalty alone unless they get value for it. There's definitely still value in the structure that SAS has today to help me boost my American status. But at the end of the day, when you're going to Scandinavia, you kind of don't have a choice if you want to interline and if you want to fly within the various things. But you can get there with Lufthansa if you're a star flyer. You can get there with LOT. You can get there with and Lufthansa is Swiss, it's Brussels, it's Austrian. All flies into the capitals, and Lufthansa has some secondary markets. Will it be weaker? Probably, but it's not hard to find if you want it. But will I fly SAS long haul as a guy who was, gold member from day one in when Star Alliance was launched? I think that it's definitely a big thing. It's a personal thing, and I'll get over that as a lifetime Star flyer. But I do feel like it's definitely it's gonna take some getting used to thinking about how the future will look, for sure.
Well, it's one said a couple of years to do it. So
yeah, thank you guys for joining me for an hour. It was supposed to be 45 minutes. Thank you for taking the time. Fascinating stuff as always, and thank you guys for joining. If you haven't subscribed already to our channel, please go ahead. Rudy's, we're also broadcasting on Rudy's channel that has a lot more followers than the FTU, and a lot of comments from everybody. Thanks for coming in. I tried to comment as many as I could from the various areas of both Facebook and YouTube. So we'll see you. The regular show is back on tomorrow at 3 p.m. Weekly, the Miles and Points Report, where we'll not be covering this as much because we've done 2 of them so far this week, but we'll cover a lot of other things. Thanks, guys, for joining us, both Rudy and Fleming. Have a good evening, Fleming, and also Rudy. Time for a little bit of nappy poo there, and I'll call you a little bit later to finish the Baltics tour.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
have a great